Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GLP's 10 out of 10. And today we have with us Jim Tetlow. After growing up in Ohio, Jim graduated from Carnegie Mellon University with a BFA in drama and dived straight into a career in lighting design. After some freelance work, Jim worked at the highly renowned Imiro Fiorentino Associates in New York City and then in Los Angeles for 10 years before starting his own company, which would become Nautilus Entertainment Design, and to his current base in San Diego. Jim's catalogue of work spans architectural lighting with projects including the Silver Star Hotel and Casino in Philadelphia, and more recently, the Senate Chamber in the US Capitol, and soon to be followed by the House of Representatives Chamber, a current work in progress. Corporate event designs include a long list of blue chip clients such as General Motors, Apple, IBM, Porsche, and AT&T. And as you may have guessed from his company name, Jim has also worked extensively in the cruise ship market, consulting on the lighting for more than 55 ships, including some of the largest that have ever been built. In his television work, Jim has won an Emmy and 2 Monitor Awards, along with many more nominations. His credits span multiple pageants for Miss America and Miss Universe, US political conventions, and presidential debates. The world premiere of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Requiem for the BBC, and he's even got to work with Jim Henson's Muppets. Jim is a member of the American Society of Theatre Consultants, the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, the International Cinematographers Guild, the Illumination Engineering Society, and my personal favorite, a Showlight International Committee member. Welcome, Jim Tetlow.
Thank you very much.
It's fantastic. One thing that struck me when putting that kind of bio together, the relighting of both the Senate chamber and the House of Representatives chamber in Washington is obviously just phenomenal. I'm sure that doesn't come up very often. So that's going to be something that's going to be around for years and decades. So it's
I hope so. The last time it was relit was in 1950.
Okay.
And so we were replacing the 1950 lighting in there.
Right.
And
wow.
With regard to the Senate chamber, I've been working on this for over 20 years.
Okay.
And we do feasibility study after feasibility study, and we never quite made it to actually doing it because money has to be appropriated and all that. And it started as a television lighting consultation.
Okay.
But I convinced them that the first thing they needed to solve was the architectural lighting. And if you can upgrade the architectural lighting, then you can reduce the intensity of the television lighting.
Okay.
Because the Senate chamber is a working environment, everybody's very sensitive to glare and lights in their eyes and all of this. So they finally did listen to me. We moved forward with the architectural lighting, and the light levels went from about 1-foot candle up to 30-foot candles on a working plane. And so now the old television lights that were originally designed by a mentor of mine at Fiorentino Associates in the 1980s have gone from typical levels of 80 to 90% down to 40 or 50%.
Okay.
So we haven't yet redone the TV lighting, but I hope that happens in the next couple of years.
Yeah, all on the cards. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's brilliant. I could imagine that, as you said, been working on it for 20 years. I could imagine, every 2 years or every 4 years, when there's a change of people, then it's almost reset the process and start it all over again.
Exactly. And several years ago, when we geared up again, we had an opening conference call with the architect of the Capitol, and the project manager said, "Well, Mr. Tetlow, I see you've been working on this project for a number of years." And I said, "Yes, 20 years to be exact. And I'm 62 now, so you only have another 20 years to make up your mind."
Right.
We've got a good laugh because, all the government workers retire at 55 or 60.
Right. That's right. Yeah. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Let's put a timestamp on it. Right. But in contrast, and I think this is just phenomenal, and this really shows off the span of work that you've done. The Muppets. Yeah. That must have been a great day at the office.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I had the privilege of working very closely with Jim Henson. He had a couple of townhouses in the East 60s, I think East 67th. And one of them was his corporate offices on 5 floors. And the other one, we put a television studio in the carriage house on the ground floor, and he had offices above that, or prop making and costume making and Muppet repair and all that sort of stuff. And we just took the back half of the ground floor, the carriage house, and we put a pipe grid in. We put in 200 amp disconnect, and this is where he did all of his experimental work. A lot of experimental chroma key during the 1980s, just trying to find what systems worked, which systems didn't work, and you know, we shot some things that were broadcast eventually in that space, but a lot of it was just experimental.
Right. Wow. Phenomenal. What I mean, an absolutely amazingly talented man.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
Just
what a loss. Yeah. What went too soon.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Jim, we have our 10 questions that we're gonna pose to you. So let's kick off with the first one. Going obviously back to earlier in your career, what was your first show as a designer?
Like most of the other people you've interviewed, I dabbled with this in high school, but I had no idea what I was doing, even though I'd read all the books, right?
Right.
I'd be changing, you know, I'd be running the auto transformers and looking at it, but I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
The first time I really had a sense of what I was doing was my junior year at Carnegie Mellon, when I lit the River Niger. And it was directed by a man named Israel Hicks, who was a well-known regional theater director. And it was the first time that I'd come in with a concept and I'd explained it to him. He treated me like a professional, even though I'm a college kid. I really felt that I was in control of the lighting, and I was getting what I wanted, and I was happy with the result. And that was the first time that it worked.
Right. Everything came together, and yeah,
right
there. That's it. That's fantastic. I mean, to have that, yeah, already in college, to know, yep, I've nailed it. I'm on the right path. This is what I want to do. That's...
Yeah, and the other real learning experience was the entire cast, except for perhaps one character, the policeman, were all African American, and I'd never thought about the variations in skin tone.
Right.
And a very broad range of skin tones in African American cast, and so that was another thing that I hadn't thought about, but it's, you know, certainly dealt with and learned about.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. But I guess, you know, and that's what obviously part of that college experience is about, I guess, to be able to learn all of those things. So yeah.
Should be, yeah.
Wow, should be, right. We mentioned obviously just a top layer of some of the shows that you've done over the years, and some of the events and things that you've worked on, and some of the projects and everything like that. And I'm sure, you know, obviously you're award winning, you've had some phenomenal success, but I'm going to guess that it wasn't all plain sailing, and there's been, you know, a couple of times when it didn't quite go according to plan. So have you got like a Spinal Tap moment you could share with us?
I've got two, if you have time.
We've got all the time in the world for these stories.
Okay. The first one occurred during the 25th anniversary of Singapore show that we did, which was a stadium show in 1990. And we had automated searchlights around the perimeter at the top of the stadium. And of course, they're powered by a series of generators outside around the stadium.
Okay.
Our client was the Ministry of Defense. So we were working for the government, which I have another story about crewing with that. But the government, when they put out the tender for the generators, had not included generator operators. And so we would program all night long. And then as dawn is appearing, we shut down, the guys would start shutting down the consoles. And we didn't have anybody else to shut down the generators. So I thought, I'll go do it. So I had them show me how to do it once. And I said, I'll do this. You know, you guys pack up. I don't want to sit around doing nothing. So I go out and I go, there'd be like 8 or 10 of them around the perimeter, and I shut it down, and the sun's coming up and it's beautiful. Well, one night, and one of these generators was for the lasers. And you see where this is going.
I,
And we were sure that the laser people had finished because we didn't see them there. So I shut off all the generators, and then I shut off the laser generator. And about 15 seconds later, they're screaming because they hadn't shut down.
right. They were still,
Right, right. So I was able to restart the generator before any damage happened. And so we, narrowly got through that. But that was the last morning that I had to go around shutting down the generator.
right. You're relieved of that job. That's right.
Right,
So,
right.
stay away. Right.
We were dependent upon the Ministry of Defense for a lot of our local labor, specifically to carry the automated searchlights up into the back of the arena, of the stadium.
Right.
And so I said to the colonel that was our liaison with this, I said, these weigh a couple 100 pounds. They're heavy. And you're going to need a lot of men to get this done. He said, I'll give you a platoon. I said, okay. All right.
You can't go wrong with that. As many hands as you need. Wow.
No.
Yeah.
So the second Spinal Tap moment was during the daytime Emmys in New York, sometime in the early 90s. And my normal bottom sight colors were red, amber, blue, green.
Okay.
And because you can mix anything with that.
Right.
And so, and this is using 1K Palace units, traditional halogen sight lights. And for this specific show, I wanted to do a really deep indigo, which you can't get mixing the red and blue, the primary red and blues. So I said, all right, I'm going to try leaving the green out and go with the indigo, like a Lee 181 sort of thing. And I think that's probably exactly what it was. And so I told the electrician, I said, all right, I'm going to try this. I don't know if the cameras are going to read this or if it's going to do what I want. So bring the green cuts of gel also. So we get on camera and I look at it, and it wasn't meeting my expectations. So I called up the electricians and I said, okay, and I'm in the truck. We just done a rehearsal. I said, change it out to green, will you? I said, okay, we're on it. They were a little bit faster than I was in updating the opening cue of the show, where I had the indigo at full. And I didn't think there's any way they could have changed it already, but we go into the next rehearsal and you've got the big boom cameras sweeping in. We go into the first cue up and it looks like St. Patrick's Day. I mean, it is the brightest, greenest sight you've ever seen. And I'm shocked because I didn't think they'd been able to finish it. Right. So the director stops and starts screaming, what the hell is this? And I'm trying to explain, but I'm laughing at the same time. So it only took 30 seconds to fix. Right. But it wasn't 30 seconds that I'd had to fix because we're doing other things. We're looking at other things. So we got through that, but
that's right. That's a crew you want to have on site. That you hire them next time, because when you want a job done, then it's obviously it's taken care of.
Right. And I think the best part about this question is everybody messes up. Everybody has these moments where you're not perfect. But what really matters is how you recover from it, or what you learn from it. And that's what I find interesting about this question, how other people responded.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. In the heat of the moment, what do you do about it? Yeah. Right. That's the key part. Oh, that's brilliant. Both fantastic, fantastic armors. I'd love to, a platoon of people running around. That's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Jim, what would you say is the best piece of advice anyone's ever given you, either professionally or otherwise?
Yeah, it was given to me by my old boss, Imero Fiorentino, who would say on a regular basis, remember, the lighting is the easy part.
Okay.
And I think it should probably be rephrased into saying that the lighting isn't the hardest part of the job.
Okay.
What's harder than that is your relationships, getting the work, motivating your crew, all of those aspects of it. And of course, you have to come to the job totally competent in your skills as a lighting designer, but that's not all of it. There's so much more to the job than just being a competent lighting designer.
Right, right. The whole package that has to come
Right.
with it. As you said, it's people skills, it's communication skills, it's being able to problem solve. Obviously, as we know from the
On the fly.
from the
Right.
last question. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So much more to it, as well as you say, obviously being highly competent. Yeah, that's good. That's it. I think that's good. I mean, that's good for anybody to remember all the way through their career, because that advice would never change,
Right.
whether you're a new beginner or a seasoned professional. Yeah. Um, what would you say is your proudest achievement professionally?
Building, my wife and I built this really great company with professionals that work at the highest level on
Mhm.
a variety of live events or installations, theme park work, cruise ships. Uh, that's the proudest achievement. If you said what's one of the shows I'm proudest of,
Mm.
I'd probably say the Andrew Lloyd Webber Requiem uh, for the BBC, which was shot in St. Thomas Church on Fifth Avenue in New York.
Great, phenomenal, phenomenal. I guess obviously a phenomenal occurrence. It was a massive piece of work for him, and quite a departure at the time from all the the musicals he'd been writing, I think.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So.
And it was related to the recent death of his father. And it was
Ah.
dedicated to his father.
Okay. I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I think, at this point, I'd just like to mention, in the first part of your answer, I think what's phenomenal is that now you are, I guess, handing over the reins, if you like, of Nautilus, your company, and turning it into an employee-owned company to secure it for the next generation, which I just think is a fantastic thing to do. It's a fantastic gesture. So I just want to say congratulations on.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been in the works for a number of years. Uh,
Great.
and we started the employee stock ownership plan for a number of reasons. Certainly, there's benefits to my wife and I. It's sort of it's a defined way for us to get out. But of ownership, I'm still working. But it also, I'd hoped it was going to be a recruitment tool. It wasn't as great of a recruitment tool because nobody can understand what it is.
Right.
I hope to be a retention tool. It has to some extent, but not the extent that I expected. But in the end, all the participants are now shareholders in the company.
Fantastic. Absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Congratulations again to both you and your wife for getting to that level and being able to yeah, I guess close that chapter, as you said, as you prepare for the next step. Obviously, you travel internationally, or normally, not so much at the moment, maybe, but you travel a lot for your work. When you're at home and not traveling, what do you normally do in your downtime?
Traditional analog photography with a wet darkroom.
Okay. Wow.
I play in 19th century processes, platinum palladium printing, cyanotypes, similar processes where I take non-sensitized paper, I mix my own chemistry, I coat the papers, I expose it myself, clean it, wash it, develop it, all that.
Wow. The whole kind of soup to nuts process all the way through.
Yeah, and with a small modification, now that I'm shooting more digital than with a large format camera, 35 millimeter, I'm now making digital negatives with an inkjet printer and then contact printing them onto the paper.
Okay, right. And do you publish the works, or are you collecting them, or just a fun thing?
I have a Flickr page, but I've been thinking probably in the past year with all the downtime, I probably should have created my own web page, but I'm doing this for my own artistic satisfaction. I'm not doing this to sell these or to promote my name. I'm really doing this for my own satisfaction.
Right.
And I love for people to see it, but it's a totally non-commercial
Right.
aspect of what I do.
Yeah. an absolute true pastime. That's
right.
Perfect. And obviously a complete distraction from the day, from all the other stuff that you have to deal with. So I'm sure it's very, very relaxing at the same time.
Right.
What would you say is your favorite venue or the best venue that you've ever worked in?
I think a lot of us would say Radio City. I mean, phenomenal venue with a phenomenal crew, but everybody also likes these, like the Dallas Opera House or the Wang Center in Boston, or the Shrine Auditorium in LA.
Right.
I think most people, people have similar answers to that. I'd like to address it in a different way if I can.
By all means.
Okay, and this came up because I was on a Zoom call with some other lighting designers a few months ago, and I said, "Has anybody worked in a good venue recently? Because every venue I work in is a disaster." Right. And so I think the question ought to be, what's the worst venue you've ever worked in and have been able to pull off the show?
All right then. So, Jim Tetlow, what's the worst venue you've ever worked in and managed to pull off a show?
Well, let's talk about the first presidential debate this year.
Okay.
We were supposed to do it at Notre Dame University in Indiana in their field house, their sports arena.
Okay.
Because of COVID, they had to cancel. And fortunately, the Cleveland Clinic, who was already handling our health protocols for the debates, said, "Why don't you come do it here in our brand new educational building in Cleveland?"
Okay.
So we went there, and it's a beautiful Norman Foster designed, gorgeous building. There's just a few problems. The atrium is the size of a football field, and it's got an all glass ceiling. So there's no rigging points. It all has to be ground supported.
Oh.
And it's daylight. Yeah, I can only work at night.
Right.
And so we put in a massive ground support system. Kish Rigging designed it and installed it.
Okay.
And I had the least time of ever with the debates to focus, program, look at people under show conditions. We never saw the candidates under show conditions because they come in for their walkthrough in late afternoon.
Right. So, when it's still daylight.
First time we saw the candidates under show conditions is when they walked out onto the stage.
Wow. That must have been nerve-wracking.
Then we get to the second debate, which is the vice presidential debate, and it's in a theater at the University of Utah. The auditorium is historic, old. The stage house is new, probably 20 years old, but there are no front of house rigging points.
Okay.
So we thread some aircraft cable down from the one front of house catwalk and lightly load a truss there. Nobody would give us any ratings on it. So, the Kish guys are super safe and all that. So they did that. And then I found that one of the far box booms was the right angle, but it is about 70 feet away instead of being 30 or 40 feet away from my key lights.
Right.
So we got through that one. And so it was a whole fall of lousy venues.
Right.
And obviously it all worked out, but
yes.
I think that's a much more interesting thing to talk about.
Right. Much more of a story involved there. And I imagine, I was thinking about this because you've worked on a lot of different political events over your career, including, Republican and Democrat, national conventions, inauguration balls, the presidential debates many times. And I was thinking, that's probably, it's got to be quite a hard job to do, because whilst it seems simple, you just have to light two talking heads who are stood behind a lectern. They're not really moving about. But I guess the scrutiny of it, ensuring that, the key, it's the same level, it's the same tone, and they're both going to look as good as each other, because there can't be, of course, any favoritism in any way. And the lighting is part of that, I guess.
That's exactly it. It's high scrutiny.
Right. Yeah. So that actually brings back to your earlier piece of advice is, the lighting is, especially in that, is probably just a tiny part of the whole job.
Right.
Yeah. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. It really is. Brilliant. Well, there we go. We'll keep that as a great answer to a great rework of the question. So, obviously, as we know, we're in various forms of lockdown and everything at the moment. Musically, if you were able to just keep one artist or one album with you during an extended period, who or what would that be?
I don't follow pop music, and I like, for the most, I can't focus on work with music in the background unless I'm programming to that specific song.
Okay.
I just want to get that out there. I don't know. I don't have background music playing when I'm working here in the office. But having said that, 20 years of working in Branson, Missouri, forced me to be a country music fan.
Right.
I hated it when I first started working there,
Okay.
but over 20 years, it grew on me. and now, whenever I'm in Nashville, and I've worked at the Opry a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
I always try to get to see the Opry show because
Right.
it's such great entertainment.
Yes.
So, I out of the country western genre, I would say Alison Krauss is one of my favorite artists.
Mm-hmm.
Not only her voice, but the backup band, I feel are really
Right.
great.
Yeah, she is absolutely a phenomenal artist. So
Yeah.
fantastic. Okay, Alison Krauss, it is. That's brilliant, and that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, Branson, Missouri. Well, what a absolute gem of a place. So,
Okay.
if you were able to spin back in time and go and visit the teenage Jim Tetlow and offer one piece of advice, what would that be?
You have no idea where your career is going to go, and that's okay.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are some people in this business that have this linear trajectory. You know, they come
Right.
out of school and they're going to be a Broadway designer, and they go to New York and they get jobs as assistants, and that's what they do. And there's
Right.
some guys that come out, or women, and they go into television or they go into touring. Touring you can't do your whole life. You know, you get burned out on that.
Right.
But what I think is important is whatever plan you have, don't be upset if it doesn't work out that way and you have to take detours and zigzag your way through your career.
Right. It'll still be fun. It'll still be great. Just go
Right.
with it.
You follow the opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. When the door opens, make sure you walk through it.
Right.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's great. And that's great for, again, for anybody watching to remember that as well. So, okay. If you were able to sit down for a cup of coffee with any one person, they could be living, they could be deceased. Who would that be?
I know some of your guests, or many of your guests, have mentioned somebody of historic proportions.
Hmm.
I'd like to sit down and speak with somebody of historic proportions in our industry, and that's Fred Foster.
Okay, the founder of ETC.
Yes, yeah, because he had such an outsized impact on the industry, on designers, on competitors. The corporate culture that he created at ETC is fantastic. They too have an ESOP for employee participation.
Yes.
And the last time I saw him was at LDI, I guess 2 years ago, several months before he died. And he seemed great, and we had a great conversation. And I was just so shocked and saddened when he died in February, I believe 2 years ago. So I'd like to just have another conversation with him over a beer or a drink or something.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Put the coffee to one side, take a beer instead. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. You're so right. A phenomenal man, a phenomenal legacy that he grew and is obviously continuing in his name as well. And yeah, somebody else who has gone way too soon.
Right.
Yeah. Fred Foster it is. We get to our final question, Jim. This one's a little bit more relaxed now. The pressure's off. When we're finished with the interview, your phone's going to ring, and it's going to be Team USA, and they're going to call you up to participate in the Olympics. Now, it could be for the Summer Games or it could be for the Winter Games, but the question is, what are they going to call you up for? What's the one thing you'd like to have a go at?
Oh, it's simple. Triathlon.
Okay. Right.
I mean, first of all, I do all three of those things, but here's the real reason. The triathlete may not be the best runner, may not be the best swimmer, and may not be the best cyclist.
Right.
But he's capable, he or she, capable of competing at the top levels in any one of those three events. And I think there's a direct correlation to my career on that.
That sounds very, very true. Again, just harping back to the beginning and all the different areas that you've worked in over the years. That's true. That's very true. There we go. Perfect. That's an absolute brilliant answer. So,
thank you.
Jim, thank you so much for finding the time for us. I know, obviously, you've got lots of projects going on. We discussed some of them, but you're never quiet. So that's great. And I really appreciate you being able to join us here.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
It's great. It's great. Take care, stay safe. And of course, we look forward to, congratulations again. I'll just say one more time. And of course, we look forward to meeting up in person when that can happen again.
I look forward to it too.
Great.